The wind cut through the valley like a blade, carrying dust and cold as the sun slipped behind the jagged hills. The small wooden cabin stood alone near the edge of town, its crooked chimney coughing out thin smoke. Inside that cabin lived Clara Mayfield, a poor young woman who owned almost nothing except a stubborn heart and a kindness that had never learned how to say no. Clara had lost her parents 2 winters earlier. The land they once rented had been taken, and all she had left was this one-room cabin and a few chickens she guarded like treasure. Most nights, she went to bed hungry, wrapping herself in patched blankets and whispering prayers she wasn't sure anyone still heard. Yet even with so little, she never let bitterness live in her heart. That night, as the sky darkened and the temperature dropped fast, Clara was finishing a thin soup when she heard a knock on the door. It wasn't the confident knock of a town man. It was hesitant, careful, almost apologetic. She froze for a moment. Visitors after dark were rare and rarely good. Still, she took a breath, picked up the small lantern, and opened the door. Standing there was a tall man, his coat worn and dusty, hat pulled low. Beside him stood a little girl, no more than 7, clutching his hand with both of hers. Her cheeks were red from the cold, her eyes wide and tired. "Ma'am," the man said quietly, voice rough but respectful. "I hate to ask, but my daughter and I have nowhere to go tonight. The inn turned us away. I can pay a little, just a corner. One night." Clara looked at the girl first. That's what decided it. She could see the exhaustion in her small shoulders, the way she leaned into her father as if the wind itself scared her. Clara knew that look. She'd worn it herself once. "You can come in," Clara said softly. "I don't have much, but it's warm." The man blinked, surprised. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "One night won't hurt." The man introduced himself as Daniel. He didn't say much else. Clara didn't ask. In towns like this, stories were often heavy, and she'd learned not to pry. She gave them her bed and took the chair near the fire herself. Daniel tried to protest, but she wouldn't hear it. The girl, whose name was Lily, smiled at Clara like she'd just been handed the world. Later, as the fire crackled low, Clara watched Daniel carefully. He didn't act like a beggar. His boots were worn, but clean. His posture was straight. His eyes missed nothing. He spoke gently to Lily, brushing her hair back and whispering reassurance whenever the wind rattled the walls. Clara offered them her soup. Daniel tried to refuse again, but Lily's stomach growled loudly, and they both laughed quietly. That laugh warmed the room more than the fire ever could. As the night deepened, Clara found herself talking more than she usually did. She told them about her parents, about losing the land, about learning to survive on almost nothing. Daniel listened without interrupting, his face unreadable, his eyes thoughtful. "You're strong," he said finally. "I don't feel strong," Clara replied. "I just keep going." "That's what strength is," he said. When the fire burned low and Lily had fallen asleep, Daniel stepped outside for a moment. Clara watched him through the window, standing under the stars, shoulders heavy, like a man carrying more than he showed. He wasn't what he seemed. By morning, Clara woke early to prepare what little breakfast she could manage, cornbread and weak coffee. When Daniel came in, he looked rested, almost different, like the shadows had lifted slightly from his face. "Thank you," he said, "for everything." She waved it off. It was just one night. Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a few coins. Clara shook her head immediately. "No," she said firmly. "I didn't do it for money." He studied her for a long moment, then slowly put the coins away. "Then someday," he said quietly, "I hope I can repay your kindness." She smiled politely, not knowing how true those words would become. They left shortly after, Lily hugging Clara tightly before running back to her father. Clara stood in the doorway, watching them disappear down the dusty road, never imagining she would see them again. But fate had other plans. 2 weeks later, the town buzzed like a disturbed hive. Word spread fast, faster than wildfire. A wealthy ranch owner had returned to the territory. Daniel Blackwood, the millionaire cowboy. He owned thousands of acres, half the cattle in 3 counties, and had been away for months handling business in the East after his wife's death. People whispered that he was cold, distant, impossible to please. Clara heard the name while trading eggs for flour and nearly dropped the basket. Daniel Blackwood. Her Daniel? It couldn't be. The man she met wore a worn coat and asked for shelter like any other drifter. Still, something unsettled her. That afternoon, a black carriage stopped in front of her cabin. Two men in fine coats stepped out, followed by a familiar figure. Daniel, but not as she remembered him. His coat was clean, tailored. His boots shined. His presence alone made the air feel heavier. He removed his hat when he saw her, the same respectful gesture as before. "Miss Mayfield," he said gently. She could barely speak. "You're—" "Yes," he said. "I owe you an apology." He explained everything then. How he'd been traveling quietly with Lily, avoiding attention. How he wanted to see the land as it truly was, not through wealth or reputation. How the innkeeper had turned them away because Daniel refused to announce who he was. "And you," he said, "opened your door without knowing anything about me." Clara felt embarrassed, almost foolish. "I didn't know," she whispered. "That's why it mattered," he said. He offered to buy her cabin, to move her into town, to give her a comfortable life immediately. She refused. "I don't want charity," she said quietly. Daniel smiled, something warm breaking through the serious man everyone feared. "Then don't take charity. Take opportunity." He offered her work at his ranch. Fair pay, a place to belong. Clara accepted, not knowing that her life was about to change forever. At the ranch, Clara worked hard, harder than anyone expected. She treated the animals gently, learned quickly, and earned respect without demanding it. Lily followed her everywhere, clinging to her like a little shadow. Daniel watched it all silently. Over time, trust grew. Then friendship. Then something deeper, quieter, stronger. Clara never asked for more. That was what Daniel admired most. When sickness swept through the cattle one winter, Clara stayed up nights helping workers, refusing rest. When Lily fell ill, Clara never left her side. Daniel saw then what kind of woman she truly was. One evening, months after that cold night, Daniel stood with Clara under the same stars. "You gave me shelter when you had nothing," he said. "You gave my daughter warmth when she needed it most." Clara looked down. Anyone would have done the same. "No," Daniel said softly. "Not anyone." He took her hand, not like a rich man claiming something, but like a man asking. Clara understood then. The poor girl who once slept in a chair had unknowingly changed the life of a millionaire cowboy, not by asking, not by begging, but by giving the only thing she truly owned, her kindness. And in the end, it was that kindness that gave her everything she never dared to dream of.